Welcome to The Conflict Coach with Dr. Emily Taylor. I'm a mediator, developmental psychologist, and married mother of 5. I also teach conflict resolution classes. And like you, I've dealt with a lot of conflict in my own life. And I used to think I could make it all go away if I improved conditions or changed myself. But I've realized that conflict is just part of life. We all need more effective tools to handle it with confidence. So that's what this podcast is about. Each episode, you'll hear me coach a real person through a real conflict in their life. As you listen, you'll notice that I'm not telling them what to do. I'm giving them a set of skills that can apply to any conflict, including the ones in your life. So let's get started. I'm joined today by John. He's a young working professional. After finishing grad school, he moved to a big city on the East Coast, and not long ago, he rented a room in a house. The situation seemed perfect, but the landlord has done some things that have made John reconsider a little bit his choice. So today we're going to consider how he might address his current conflict. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So what's your typical approach to conflict?
Well, I'll tell you that I prefer not to have conflict. I think I'm an avoider. When conflict's in front of me, I'm like, no thanks.
I understand. So maybe just to start, could you lay out what the conflict is, how it started and maybe how it's progressed to get where it is right now?
I recently signed a lease with the landlord for a room. It was a newly acquired property in a single family home neighborhood. When I moved in, there was one other tenant, an older gentleman, maybe in his 50s. The house seemed like pretty clean and quiet. There were 4 bedrooms. I chose to pay extra to move into the master bedroom so that I would have like some extra space and a private bathroom. Over the next few months, the house was gradually filled. 3 people moved in upstairs. 2 were brothers in one of the rooms, and then a female tenant in the other room, making a total of 5 people in the house. Then additional areas of the house began to be filled. A door was installed off of a side room to the kitchen, creating a bedroom where the den had been, and curtains were hung, blocking off the front living room. Tenants moved into both rooms, and a family, a father with 3 children, moved in downstairs. Let's see, a while later, the female tenant's 3 children also moved in with her. And then to top it off, one of the tenants downstairs moved out, and a family of 3, a mom and dad and a 2-year-old, moved in. So that brought the total up to 15 people just hanging out in the same house.
Wow, that's different from what you expected, right?
Totally different. Yeah, 4 people, 4 bedrooms, 4 people. And that's kind of what you would expect zoning wise in a single family neighborhood.
Was there any expectation or discussion about that, or was it just kind of assumed that's how it would roll?
It was discussed that there were 2 things that came from the landlord. He did tell me that he would not bring children into the house. And I thought that was weird and crazy that he would even have to say that, because I thought it was a given that you don't mix children and families with other non-children families.
Okay.
And then I want to say that we talked about, I don't know, maybe we didn't talk about the other one because I never imagined that you'd get 15 people living together. So maybe it was a given and assumed. In either case, I should have read the contract better because neither of those terms were in there. After this, the only areas of the house I had access to were like the laundry room and the kitchen and my bedroom.
Wow. Do you mind just telling me what that's like for you?
Well, the first thing I'll say is to give everyone credit, it could be worse. There were some pretty awful things, like laundry was being run nonstop until like 2 a.m. every single night. And my room is close enough to the laundry. I'm a light sleeper. So I reached out to the landlord, expressed that, hey, this stuff is interrupting my sleep. And he actually came through really well. He installed a lock on the laundry room door so that if someone was using it late at night, he would know based on like who used which passcode, who was accessing it so that he could kind of police it a little bit. And that was really thoughtful of him. But for every time something gets resolved, like in a house of full of people, it's like something new, something new, something new is always coming up.
So the laundry thing happened, it sounded like a little while ago. Right now, what's going on for you in that house? Do you have, like, are there new, minor irritations or major irritations? What's going on?
Right now, um, since we talked about sleep, we can talk about it a little more because that's one that's really important to me.
Okay.
Um, there have been a number of things that have impacted sleep. One is kids that apparently don't have bedtimes. There were, let's see if I can count the kids. I think there were 7 kids in the house at one time. One of those families just barely moved out, so now we're down to 4 kids in the house, playing until 11 o'clock, midnight, that sort of thing, yelling, you know, moving around in the small spaces that were available to them, since, as you can imagine, they don't have a lot of space in the house either.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that going on. There's like this is like a dumb thing, but there's a fan in the room beneath me. This was the den that got converted into a bedroom. It's like not a balanced fan, I guess, so it creates this vibrating noise when it's being used. So I'm a light enough sleeper that that interrupts my sleep, and I can't sleep at all if that's going on. Even like earplugs didn't work, burying my head in 2 pillows didn't work. None of that worked, because you can like feel the vibrations through the floor. And then kind of the back deck got taken over and converted into like a smoke lounge. And this is another one of those situations where it could be a lot worse, but it's not great. So this is like smoking things that I don't know what they are, and I'm not familiar with the smells. I'm familiar with the smell of like cigarettes and weed because those are like common in public. And then there's like stuff that I have no idea what it is. And that stuff makes its way into the house through like an open window, an open door, that sort of stuff. I don't want to be too upset at the guys for doing what they're doing out there. At the same time, I need to be able to be clean for like a drug screening stuff, something like that. And I don't want that affecting it.
Okay. So we got sleep. We have people smoking things that could affect, the possibility of getting a drug-free test. Anything else that's really pressing on you?
Like I'm sure they're not loving being in the house either, and and I'm not trying to hold that against them. Housing prices are insane, and people do what they got to do to get by. And obviously, the first option to consider is, well, if you don't like it, why don't you just leave, right? Believe it or not, I came from a place that was worse in a lot of ways. And while I'm actively looking for a place, I'm aware that there are ways that my situation could be worse. And so what I'm trying instead is to hope that there's ways I can approach this to improve it while I'm here, and then really leave on good terms anyways.
Do you mind me asking how it's better than what you experienced before?
Okay. I came from a place just before this. The landlord was a living in the house, and it was a frustrating and controlling, manipulative relationship where this landlord slash roommate saw themselves as the king of the castle, and my word is law, and you do what I say because you're my tenant. The few times that I tried to discuss it, it just turned into like this person shouting at me. And there were a lot of things that were frustrating, like anything that I had in the public space got shoved into a little cubby, and I wasn't able to use any of it. And any like guests that I brought into the house were like super policed, and it was a really one-way street. So this is like this crazy situation. And honestly, if you ask me, I think it's like kind of hilarious in a sad way, but it's not one that makes me feel dehumanized or abused or anything like that. Is way better than what I came from for the things that are most important to me. And I'm hoping that I can figure something out about the other pieces.
So, listeners, something to really think about is how we frame our conflict. Are we using just worst case scenario versus now? Or are we actually considering what needs in our current situation are not being met? Of course, John's right that his current situation is in many ways much better than what he experienced in his last situation. But the frame he's using could actually be paralyzing him because sometimes we don't think we deserve any better, or we actually don't think better even exists. And if you, like a lot of us, like John, are a conflict avoider, this is something to consider. Is your worst case scenario frame preventing you from actually getting your current needs met? Let's see where John is on that. How dire, again, like it sounded like the last place you lived, it got so extreme that even if you wanted to avoid the situation, it was just like unacceptable in the end. Where are you at with this one?
Um, well, like I said, most of my contact has been with the landlord, and he's pretty responsive. I'll give you an example. I was like, hey, these folks moved in downstairs. There's a 2-year-old. The 2-year-old tends to cry at 2 a.m. and at 6 a.m. And the way that conversation was actually really simple. The landlord was like, okay, I'll take care of it. And 2 weeks later, the landlord checked back in with me. Thoughtful, I really appreciated it. And he goes, have you heard any more crying? And I said, yes, but I can tell that they're trying. And he said, good, let me know if anything happens. He says, and then he goes, I told them they either need to take care of it or move out. That's what he
Wow.
told me.
So you have someone doing your hard work. I mean, the direct kind of.
Well, yeah, I mean, except that I would feel like I had pushed this family that I think probably really needs the space out of their house for whatever my needs were. And if it came down to that, I'd rather leave than make them leave. Like the result that I thought was going to happen was like, hey, this is important. Let's talk about it, just so that we all know what each person wants. And it wasn't like that at all. The landlord was like, this hammer came down.
It sounds like you have more of an expectation. You talk through issues. So you're in the prior situation where you're not able to do that and you're kind of rebuffed and controlled. But now you're in the situation where someone's willing to listen to you, like the landlord, but maybe trying to resolve problems in a way that you would never use.
Yeah, it's like his problem solving conflict styles were like really aggressive, and I didn't want that to be done in my behalf.
Sure. So here's another thing. Sometimes in a conflict, there's a person who's responding to us in small ways that we appreciate, but don't actually address the main issue. For example, the landlord in this case is addressing the baby crying or the laundry running, until 2 a.m. But the main thing is there may be too many people in the house. Those gestures may be giving you a false hope that the underlying issues will actually be addressed. So take note of how others are responding to you and see what effect those responses, small or large, are having on what options you think you actually have to meet the main needs in the conflict. So let's get back to John. I'm hearing you have a lot of empathy for the other tenants in the home. I'm hearing you say you have these needs, but, they're important, but maybe it's still important that other people have housing. Are you at a tipping point with this conflict wanting to make a different decision? Are you like, hey, I can hold on for another 6 months? Where are you at in the conflict?
I um I don't want to hold on for another 6 months. Um, I'm not locked into the lease. I could leave with 30 days notice. The risks are typical landlord tenant issues like if I leave on bad terms with the landlord, will they retain my deposit? Will they make it hard for me? Will they, you know, file in court, stuff like that? The other option is when I get someplace new, is it going to be any better if I haven't vetted it? Is it Is it worth paying a lot of extra money for a place that's more private? Maybe. Maybe that's what I'll decide. And that's some processing that I haven't done. And I'm at a point where I think I can process it and work with it.
Okay, so you feel like you're in a good situation, say emotionally, socially, to process and figure out what you actually want to do. What would have to happen right now in your housing situation that would push you over the edge? Again, if we're thinking about a tipping point of moving the status quo into something different, what would that be?
Well, want to sleep. If there was something that made it so I absolutely couldn't sleep and it went on, I would walk away. Also, I have all of my kitchen stuff and a fair bit of stuff in the garage, including my bicycle, which is what most days I commute to work on. If those things were highly disrespected, abused, or taken or damaged, I can't really afford to risk that stuff. Or if I was drawn into a conflict that I wasn't willing to be a part of, like things that happen in packed house, there's like yelling matches between tenants, and I hide in my room and stay out of it as far away from it as I can. I mean, no place is perfect, and if I wanted a perfect place, that's I suppose it's not an option because I can't just go buy the perfect place.
Okay, okay.
Maybe one day I'll get there, but I'm trying to be realistic in those expectations.
I'm hoping you can humor me just for a minute. Is there a close friend that you have that you talk to on occasion, kind of just to vent or like get out some of this stuff?
Um, I talk about this stuff with my coworkers. They regularly follow up and want to know what's going on inside what they call the clown house.
The cloud house.
It's like the clown car that's like packed with people, but it's the house.
Okay, perfect.
That's what they call it.
Okay, I'm wondering if we can do a little role play. Just if you could humor me for a minute. So I'm going to be you, and if you could be one of your coworkers that's actually been a really good listener, that's actually heard about, all of these crazy things that have happened in the clown house, what would that person tell John? I say, what should I do? It was again last night. I haven't slept. I'm so tired. I've heard that baby, like I don't even have my own baby right now. And I'm still not sleeping. It's like I'm having to pay it forward or something. What should I do? Like just more people come in and out. There's people smoking stuff on the back that I don't even know what's going on out there. What should I do? I hate looking for places. Do you have any advice for me?
Hmm. Well, first, I think you're crazy for
What? Why am I
staying,
crazy?
because I don't think I'd put up with that situation.
It's not that bad. It's better than what I came from.
That's your decision that you're going to have to make, I suppose. But at least now you know how I feel about it.
Okay, let's break out of that. That was interesting that so you've heard other people say it's crazy. Does that resonate with you?
So this was the other thing that you made me think of earlier. These are folks that I don't think I'll if I don't imagine that I'll ever be in a situation to interact with folks like this again. And maybe part of me is curious what building those relationships is like. And to be fair to that comment, I haven't done much of that because I tried to avoid getting in anyone's way. Some of the folks are friendly enough. Maybe what part of me wants is to get the experience building relationships with people that I wouldn't normally come across. And I suppose before this I hadn't realized that might be part of what's like keeping me in the situation.
That's a pretty interesting insight. Is that something you'd thought about before?
No, but it's something that you, I guess, led me to think about today.
So there's something you're gaining by living in this situation. It sounds like it's not going to be this type of situation for the rest of your life, but it sounds like at this moment in particular, you're learning something from being associated and being in close proximity with people who maybe have very different lives from you. Is that close to what you're saying or thinking?
Yeah, I think that that's fair.
So do you feel like there's still things that you want to learn in that situation or from that opportunity?
Oh, I'm not sure how to explore that.
Just knowing yourself and how you make decisions, how you think through what you want and what you want to do. What would help you reflect and figure out next steps? So you've uncovered this little nugget of, you know what? This is pretty interesting. This is something I may not do for a long time, but I'm learning. How are you going to figure that out? What's your best process for figuring out or making a decision?
I feel like I would need to make the attempt to build some meaningful housemate relationship.
So you'd like to engage with the people that are in the house and get to know them in some way?
I suppose, yeah. That scares me because I'm not joking when I say I go and hide in my room. Yeah, it's not impossible. It just has to be intentional because my instincts don't take me there. I mean, for context, I don't know I know one roommate's name. A few others have given them to me and I don't remember them, and a few others I've never had enough of a conversation with to. So that's where the relationships are at. They're really not there. But maybe taking the time to build them would help me build like some personal interaction skills, I guess.
Is there someone that you think you could start building a relationship with first that would seem more like a natural start for you?
Probably the father of the 2-year-old. He's like probably the most friendly and outgoing person in the house.
John, it's been really important that you've been willing to share, the situation. It has a lot of moving parts. There's, like you said,
so many.
like you've triaged, kind of the irritants of the situation. But I just encourage you to think through again, like how much am I willing to, shift from the status quo? Is the status quo good enough? Or is there a possibility to have some of my other needs met? And whether all of it can be addressed enough that it's a situation you actually want to stay in, that's probably the question, right?
Yeah. And I think trying to build some friendships or some good living relationships with some of the other folks there, I think that is something I should explore.
It sounds like a good idea. I hope that going forward, you will have a living situation that feels right and at least good enough that you can get some sleep, that you can feel some security in your house, and also that you won't be worried about some of these issues like, the smoking of different products on the back porch or whatever those things are.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and fingers crossed.
So that was a really interesting coaching session. There were some things that I didn't expect, but that I think are actually really helpful for us to consider. So let's recap some of the things that we learned from this session. The first is just, are we comparing our current situation with a worst case scenario? And is that framing with the worst case scenario, is that actually preventing us from tackling the current issues that we're facing? Another thing to think about is that idea of responsiveness. Is someone responding with token gestures to the conflict and giving us false hope that the main issues of the conflict will actually be addressed? And then you may be thinking, what just happened? Like, does John actually not want to leave this house? That's where we actually have to examine our own patterns of avoidance, if that's our tendency. We got to take note that sometimes avoidance is purely based on fear, But what I learned while I was coaching and working with John was this idea of curiosity and a desire to expand his skills interpersonally with perhaps people that he hadn't really engaged with before. So if you are avoiding, sometimes the avoidance can actually be a sign that there's some internal resistance to leaving an opportunity. So lay claim to your own desires and perhaps even idiosyncrasies, but see it as something to examine in terms of avoidance rather than just dismissing it as I'm afraid. Thanks for joining me today. If there's someone in your life who might benefit from listening to this episode, please share it. Because as I always say, it's not a question of if, but when we're going to experience conflict. And we do much better when we're prepared. The Conflict Coach with Dr. Emily Taylor is a BYU radio podcast. Check the show notes to see how we can connect on social media. And next time, I'll be coaching someone through a workplace conflict. I hope you'll join me.